Welcome, classic rock fans, to an episode of Your Questions Answered. You bombarded me last night with quite a few, so I thought I'd address that this morning. Before we get started, though, I would like to thank whoever it was who has sent me this wonderful album, Paul Simon, In the Blue Light, from my wish list. I'd like to say thank you to you for this. This is an interesting record. It's Simon kind of reconfiguring his earlier songs in a new and interesting way. A lot of them sound like jazz lounge variations on the originals. I must admit, on most of these, I have to say I prefer the originals, but this is an intriguing listen anyway. Thank you so much for sending this, whoever you are. Anyway, your questions answered. Let's bring them up on my phone. First question comes from Adam. Is there any album that makes you physically sick or gives you a headache when you're listening to it? I can't think of any specific album as such, but there's certainly genres of music that give me a pulsating migraine. Usually the more sort of urban, that stuff where it's just loud, shouty and sweary over something that barely resembles music. John Betjeman famously said of popular music, it sounds like two skeletons copulating on a tin roof. I think you know the kind of genres I'm talking about. Would you consider a beginner's guide to, this comes from Rodney, I can't read that surname, I need glasses, Havatin or something? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, I do apologise. Anyway, would you consider a beginner's guide to a series where you recommend compilations, 1 or 2 albums from people wanting to discover a classic band for the first time? Yes, it's something that I am planning to do. I've got notes on my pen drive for bands like King Crimson, Yes and ELP. I've already done a Jethro Tull one. I don't think I called it a beginner's guide to. I think I called it like an introduction to Jethro Tull. But you're right, it's a cracking idea and one that I intend to embark upon. Which song do you think is the most genius song ever composed in rock? There's so many. I mean, I'd probably go with something like Close to the Edge by Yes, which is just epic. Shine On You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd is Dogs, Pink Floyd numbers. But even the more conventional songs that outside of that sort of progressive genre, I think something like the composition, lyrical and style of something like Hotel California is wonderful as well. There's so much brilliant music out there. Okay, here we go. Paul Ayres. So thoughts on the bands Eggs, Hatfield, The North, Nashville. They are, as you say, they are talented musicians, wonderful music. And I have promised to do a video, top 10 of the Canterbury scene. It's one that I must do, but I keep kicking that can down the road. Egg I'm particularly familiar with. These other bands are kind of on the periphery, I think, for me. You are right, though, the musicianship and that spirit of experimentation regarding the whole Canterbury scene is absolutely remarkable. And I haven't done anything on the Canterbury scene on my channel. I have done a classic album review on Kevin Ayres' Joy of a Toy, which is on my Patreon at the moment. I do like Kevin Ayres. And yeah, you're right, it's just a wonderful genre, if you can call it that, expression of musical exploration. I love the Soft Machine and all those sort of bands, but they're very underrepresented on this channel. I am doing this History of Prog thing where I talked about, at least in passing, the Wildflowers and Soft Machine. Best Buddy production. What are some albums that you put to the side at first, but after revisiting now love? One that springs to mind is Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd. I was listening to Pink Floyd like The Wall, Dark Side of the Moon and Meddle, and loved those. So I think I got Piper at the Gates of Dawn on I think it was the Fame label. It was a kind of a cheap reissue, repressing on this cheap and nasty vinyl that they were putting stuff on in the 80s. Anyway, I took it home and listened to it. It was nothing like anything I'd heard from Pink Floyd. Didn't even recognise it as Pink Floyd. Didn't know how to take it, just put it aside for must have been a few years before I ever played it again, but eventually grew to appreciate what a masterpiece that album actually is. Tom Garb, what band of university love that you just don't get? Not a massive fan of T-Rex. I've struggled to see anything beyond the glamour and froth of this band. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you can help me out then and recommend an album and explain to me why I should love that album, and then I'll give it a listen to. Another band in the more progressive electronic genre, if you like. Tangerine Dream, I wouldn't say they were universally loved, but it's a band I just struggled to get into. Again, maybe I'm not listening to the right album. Recommend a Tangerine Dream album that will change my mind, and I'll certainly give it a listen to. And Dance, I know you like Radiohead, but what about Blur? I do like Blur. I love that song, that instrumental that they did in the Train Spotting film. I can't remember what the instrumental's called, but I just think that's a beautiful piece of music. You know, a band that's very much writing in the same sort of vein as Small Faces and the Kinks. They've got that very specific Englishness about them. Again, I don't know a lot about them. Of course, everyone had Park Life when it came out, but maybe there's an album that... I had a couple before Park Life. I can't remember what they were called, before they were so big. But again, maybe you'll recommend an album that I should really pay attention to. Tawny Rakena, I hope I've said your name right again. Why don't you cover more bands outside the prog genre? Getting another message. Why don't you cover more bands outside the prog genre? I personally would love to hear you wax poetic on Cream, The Byrds, Jefferson Airplane, Hendrix, The Who, especially the fantastic Tommy Bolin. You're right, I have been preoccupied with the prog genre recently, and I know in my mind I think it's a genre of music that I just find fascinating, and it's so involving that I can't help but talk about it. And obviously that means I get a lot of progressive rock fans that gravitate towards my channel. I know in my mind I'm thinking of doing a classic album review soon on Van der Graaf Generator and King Crimson, but you're right, the classic rock in the broader sense has been a little bit neglected of late. I've just done a top 10 of Frank Zappa. I don't know if you consider him progressive or classic rock where he comes in, but Frank Zappa's an odd one really. He bridges so many different genres and styles. But if you look through the archive of my videos, and there's plenty there, they're probably a bit buried now, but you have to go digging for them. You'll find there's a classic song review of The Who's Pictures of Lily and Quick One While He's Away, plus a classic album review which was uploaded not so long ago of the album Tommy. Cream I haven't done anything on, that should be rectified. Hendrix, there was a classic album review of the Are You Experienced album, perhaps my favourite by Hendrix, but I've deleted it. When I say deleted it, I've just put it in limbo. It's no longer available on my channel, as with a few Beach Boys videos I did, because they were done many years ago and they're just not very good. The writing style, presentation style, everything is much better now than it was then, so I intend to revisit those, redo them and re-upload them, including Jefferson Airplane's Surrealistic Pillow, which is another one I did a few years ago. Again, the writing on that one's really good. It's just a presentation style that I don't like, so I'm going to refilm that and upload it. But you're right, the whole classic rock genre in a broader sense has been a little bit second fiddle to progressive rock at the moment for me. Mr. Blood Vessel, are there any artists or albums that you're embarrassed to really liking? A guilty pleasure, if you will. I've never admitted it, but I used to like Leo Sayer when I was a kid, because my mother had his records. I used to like, and I took my mother to see him. When was it? A few years ago, God bless her. She loved the song Moonlighting. He did one called Moonlighting. But we went to the Reading Hexagon to see him, and I must admit I really enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed the song. I really enjoy a song by him called Endless Flight. Beautiful song. Go and check that song out, by the way. So yeah, so that's something I would never admit to. Although I still admit his very first album is absolutely great, I think. ABBA, I quite like ABBA. I never admit to that. Again, it's to do with my childhood. My sister liked ABBA and we used to listen to those records together. But again, I think ABBA are a fine example of excellent songwriting, melody and song construction. In the terms of hard rock or rock genre, Kiss, I'm a big fan of Kiss. I don't hide that fact. But I know there's a lot of probably people guilty of musical snobbery on my channel, myself included perhaps, who would shake their head in despair at anyone saying they like Kiss. That was from Samuel MCC, by the way. This one, Walter Dive 122 Productions. Did you hear that Yes is releasing a new album in October? The album is entitled The Quest. Also, would you make an album review on it and express your thoughts about it? Absolutely, I intend to do that. I'm trying to email some people to get an advanced copy of it so I can listen to it and formulate an album review and upload it before it's put on general release. My channel's thankfully is attracting more and more of that sort of attention these days, which I certainly welcome. But yeah, if I can get a copy of it pre-release, I will certainly be doing that. I'm waiting to hear back. If not, I will just pre-order it like everybody else and get it when it comes out, and then record a response to perhaps an unboxing and a review of it. Definitely. I hope it's an improvement on their last one. I wasn't crazy about their last album, by the way. It seemed a little bit weak, wishy-washy, but the band have admitted that that they were somewhat rushed, I think, during the making of that album. And I know the debate will rage on. Yes, are they a Yes tribute band? I'm just going to take this album as a Yes album and listen to it as such and see what I think about it. Eric Corley. Okay, Baz, is Jethro Tull Broadsword and the Beast better than Stormwatch? Broadsword and the Beast is a fine record. There's no doubt about that. Most Tull fans, rate that album. Is it a better album than Stormwatch? No, I'd say Stormwatch is a better album. It's got a dark and brooding Dark Ages is a wonderful number. A Dunringle Elegy. I much prefer Stormwatch. Plus, Stormwatch has that classic Tull lineup as well. Jason James, what do you consider to be your guilty pleasures? Music that people would not expect you to listen to or like? Well, I've kind of answered that question already in a way. So it's music that I do listen to that I wouldn't. That people on this channel probably wouldn't realise. I do occasionally get the urge to listen to the crooners, people like Bing Crosby, Sinatra. I don't know if Sinatra's so much a crooner, but definitely Crosby, and I like Nat King Cole. I like Andy Williams as well as another one. Bing Crosby comes from my father, really. He hailed Crosby as the pinnacle of vocal achievement, him and Dean Martin. So I do occasionally listen to that, which is way outside the whole prog genre, I think. Have you considered that once live music begins again, you may well be recognised when attending gigs? Yes, and that has already happened. I was recognised at the Paul Carrick gig that I went to. I do expect to get more of that. However, in saying that, I don't go to that many gigs. It's just way too expensive these days. And I'm planning to take a year or two off to write a novel. A bold move. The mortgage is paid off, so I'm going to make some time for myself to do that, to pursue creative things. So, in a nutshell, I'm not going to have that much cash to go to that many live events anymore. I would like to go and see Big Big Train in Cambridge. However, unfortunately, I don't, believe it or not, I don't drive, and I'd have to get a taxi back from Cambridge or pay for a hotel, which makes it all obscenely expensive as well. I don't know how many live gigs I will go to, but I do expect more of that, I suppose. I'll just have to get used to saying the right thing. What's your favourite rock band? This is from Steve Weatherby. What's your favourite rock band which is most definitely not classified as classic rock? Well, I suppose I love the band The National. I've got a few of their CDs behind me, and I love the band Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I don't know if you'd consider them classic rock as such, but they're pretty high on my list. I really enjoy their music. I've never seen Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Wanted to see them recently, but they cancelled the whole European tour, as you know. Check it, by the way, if you do like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. There is a classic album review on this channel of their album Boatman's Call. That's it. In terms of The National, I saw them supporting Neil Young a few years ago in Hyde Park. I'd like to see them again, though. Next question from Sebastian Fitzpatrick. Do you plan to rank or do a top 10 Beach Boys albums? I should do. It must, they're not on my radar at the moment, apart from doing perhaps an unboxing of the Phil Flows thing when it finally arrives. I have done a classic album review of Pet Sounds, but it's one of those videos that I'm not happy with, and I've kind of put in limbo. I will rewrite and re-upload it eventually. Alec L, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of prog drummers? What's fairly easy with the first one. Neil Peart has to be there. Bill Bruford, I suspect. Nick Mason, I don't know if you class him as a prog drummer, but I love his drumming style. Very languid and hypnotic almost. I just find that one of the pleasures of listening to those early Floyd albums is his drumming, and I love the fact that on the recent Momentary Lapse of Reason they've reinstated him as a drummer on that. It sounds a lot better. It actually sounds like Pink Floyd now. I suppose the fourth one I'd probably go, I don't know if you class him as a prog drummer, but I'd probably go with Barrymore Barlow, a man who I think is partly responsible for revolutionising that Tull sound around about 72 when he comes in. He really adds some muscle to that band. If we talk about Mount Rushmore drummers, Neil Peart would still be there. Keith Moon would be there for me. Probably Ginger Baker. Ian Pace. Ian Pace is a wonderful drummer who is very underrated, I think. He often is overshadowed by John Bonham, of course, but Ian Pace is not only a wonderful drummer, a really nice guy to meet as well. These reviews. If you're on a desert island with only an iPod, you could listen to 2 more songs before it dies. What songs would they be? One of my favourite songs of all time is Procol Harum's A Whiter Shade of Pale. I love that song dearly. I went to see Procol Harum at their not HRH, it was Rambling Man. That's it. They headlined the prog stage, and as Gary Brooker was moving into that song, I had these complete idiots behind me braying like asses, which really annoys me. That sort of thing at gigs, to be honest with you, especially for watching Procol Harum. You'd expect a more decorous or restrained behaviour. That's just me. Procol Harum's White Shade of Pale, maybe Dylan's Tangled Up in Blue, or maybe a song for the Angels, Questions for the Angels by Paul Simon, possibly. Alex Conway, is 3 Lines on your Spotify playlist? Any thoughts on the footy? I'm not a footy fan. I mean, I used to collect the football cards when I was a kid, but we all did, I think. My father wanted me to like football, tried to get me into football, but it didn't really gel with me. I remember watching, the last football match I watched was the one that Maradona handballed that ball into the net. So that's a long time ago. I remember sitting there watching it with my dad. More of a rugby union fan, to be honest with you. I love rugby union, although I don't watch that either, due to the fact that I decided I don't want to watch the BBC anymore. And we just stream now. We've got Netflix, Amazon Prime and the Disney Channel for the kids, so I don't really see any live sporting events. I used to go to a few rugby matches in the day. Dean Smith asks, what is your favourite Rainbow album? Anything with Dio in, really, to be honest with you. I love Rainbow Rising, would probably be my favourite. Although I think Rainbow Rising, Dio dismissed as half that album as pretentious nonsense or rubbish. I think he dismissed it as maybe he was just having a bad day. But of course then, in the words of Dio, Richie Blackmore went off to become a pop star. And of course, after that, I mean, they're good albums afterwards as well. I mean, I do like the not Don Airy, the Graham Bonnet and Jolene Turner version of Rainbow, but nothing beats those first few Dio albums. Distortion, I think it says, who would you say is the best songwriter? Well, the usual suspects would be at the top there for me. People like Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen, people like that who have a very poetic turn of phrase. Lasagna West, I think so. So did you review music before the internet in magazines or such? I used to be a big fan of Tori Amos, and I wrote a few articles for those fanzines that she put out years ago, but other than that, no. Most of my energies were into writing literary essays and dissertations that I had to write at the time. From me to you, do you like the Smiths? Yes, I do like the Smiths, although I don't rarely talk about them. I quite like Morrissey's solo stuff as well, so even some of his later solo stuff. His last album, but one, I really, really enjoyed. I haven't heard the last album, although again, he's another figure that has become a bit marginalised because of his political beliefs, but I just take it on the music and lyrics alone. Nigel Elliott, yay or nay for Bebop Deluxe? Yes, wonderful band. I've never spoken about them. Kind of straddling that progressive and rock sort of vibe they've got going. They've just done deluxe editions of all their albums, but I just haven't got the money for them, unfortunately. Kevin Ayres, yes, I do like Kevin Ayres. Part of the Canterbury scene. I will do a 10 best Canterbury albums one day, and I have done a review of Kevin Ayres' Joy of a Toy, which is on my Patreon, which you can go and check that out. Henry Cow, yes, I do like Henry Cow. They're a strange experimental band emanated from Cambridge around about 1968. And which albums do you own the most discs by? I'm guessing Jethro Tull. But your guess would be right. For me, it'd be Jethro Tull or Marillion. I think I own the most discs by. But I intend to rectify that. I mean, a lot of the discs I used to have, I got rid of a lot of CDs years ago, just archiving them onto my MP3 player. Which I regret now, so I'm kind of replacing them as physical media, hence I've got this wish list up and running, which some people have been very kind to send things to me from that wish list. But yeah, so in terms of most discs, I'd say Marillion and Tull. That's soon to be expanded soon, of course, when Marillion put out their deluxe edition of their Fugazi album. Anyway, I think that's all of the questions that I've been sent so far. I think so. Unless there's any new ones. Refresh. No. Anyway, thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and watching these videos. I would say click like and subscribe, but I'm pretty sure you already have. So it just leaves me to say I hope you're staying well, enjoying the summer, what there is of it, and more importantly, that you keep listening.